gonna take a last shot. We're gonna use you as a decoy. Buddy, you get the ball, give it to Merle on the picket fence. He's gonna take the last shot. All right, let's go. What's the matter with you guys? What's the matter with you?
I'll make it.
All right. Buddy, get the ball to Jimmy, top of the key. Buster, just cut the floor. Let's go. Let's see.
Welcome in on this Tuesday, the 17th, May the 17th. Dennis Fithian with you here on the Maize and Blue Review, Michigan football and basketball live. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're a part of Rivals.com, talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And there's some things to talk about today. One, a basketball player who's yet to make a hoop for the Wolverines is going to be in a movie. And part of that had me thinking about who would play certain Michigan athletes and coaches on the silver screen. And we're going to have some fun with that. Also, we'll talk about those incoming freshmen, some things going on with the Michigan basketball team. A lot to think about with football. We talked about Cade McNamara yesterday, exclusively talking about Cade McNamara. Tomorrow we'll be going at a lot of football as well here on Michigan Football and Basketball Live. If you are out there and you wanted to join in via the comment section, you can do that. Read the comments as they come in real time. If you're listening to this after the fact, you say, how are you going to read my comments? Well, I'm not going to be able to do it in real time, but you can always leave me a message and I would get back to it. And then you just know that at 1 o'clock, if you want to get in and participate, you can, like I said, via the comments. And I'm working on a few different things I've mentioned this just once or twice, to be able to take phone calls and maybe even video calls. So I'm going to test one of those things out tomorrow. That's going to be happening soon right here. And that'll be just an extra layer of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And, speaking of, movies, that was Hoosiers there at the start. I took one of my favorite clips from the movie Hoosiers. I know, if you're a Michigan fan, Michigan basketball fan or Michigan football fan, there's the two sports movies that I liked both of them, but you can understand how people are like, no, I don't like that movie. Rudy's one of them. Rudy's I didn't watch Rudy when it first came out. It's been out forever, right? And maybe 10 years ago, I finally did watch it. I was like, all right, Rudy's not a bad movie. But there's some Michigan fans, maybe it just means you're like that big of a Michigan fan. Like you won't even, you didn't watch Rudy. And, the hell with Notre Dame, anything to do with Notre Dame, doesn't matter if it's a good movie or not. You're not watching Rudy. Or if you watch Rudy, you thought it was overrated because you're a Michigan fan. I think you could also think that with the movie Hoosiers, although it's not with the Indiana Hoosiers, it's about high school hoops in Indiana, but you can easily make the attachment that, you just like Michigan basketball. You're not interested in, the state of Indiana basketball and Hoosiers and Cinderella stories for that. So whatever. I like that movie. And that's one of my favorite clips. Now, when it comes to Michigan, here's the movie star. We haven't seen him. I haven't seen him in the Maize and Blue playing basketball yet. Number 13 on the screen, Jett Howard, but he is going to be in a movie. And before we get to that and we go any further, let me tell you about our new sponsor here. Hey, folks, Dennis Fithian, and support for the Maize and Blue Review is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join me and over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TMBR at manscaped.com. And if you've ever heard someone ask if the curtains match the rug, in this broadcaster's case, I can tell you, yes, they do. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code TMBR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code TMBR. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, let's get to that movie star. Here he is. And that is a picture of Jett Howard wearing the Oak Hill jersey. And Jett Howard is supposed to be there. One Carmelo Anthony in high school. And on the left, that is supposed to be LeBron James, the actor playing LeBron James. I saw that real life photo back in the day, and it's a pretty good casting by LeBron James to get these two in here. But Jett Howard already going to be a movie star before he makes his first hoop at Michigan. Who knows what's next for him? Already, playing in a movie with LeBron James, and he hasn't made a basket. By the time he's a sophomore, maybe he'll win an Oscar or something. Who knows? So the thing here is that you are a producer, you're a director, and you have to go out and you say, well, who's going to look like Carmelo Anthony, favor him, be able to act? Yeah, okay, let's go to Jett Howard, Joanne Howard's son, and there he is. Now, I went through some other Michigan athletes and coaches who I thought, well, I'm going to find out, who would be best as an actor, and lookalikes, doppelgangers. And I put a few of them in the mix here. But just thinking of Jett Howard, and top of mind, you do look at the Michigan basketball class that's coming in, and you think about what's going on. The NBA draft is tonight. Hopefully the Pistons get one of the top 3 picks. I know a lot of people are talking about, they hope they get one of the top 4. To me, there's a line with the top 3. And then, you can start talking about 4 and 5 and 6, but you want one of the top 3 picks. That's what you're looking for. Now, if you could guarantee me number 2 right now, I would take it. I'm all right, because I think Chet Holmgren could end up going 1, and then, the Pistons would have a great player land right in their lap. But one of the first 3 picks is what you're really hoping for. Now, I bring up the draft because Moussa Diabate and Caleb Houstan, as time goes on here, it seems more like those guys are going to be moving on. And there's always, going to be a lot of speculation. Musa's working out in the NBA draft combine. Caleb's not. There's some thought that maybe there'd be some guarantees, and the people speculating like they hadn't heard anything about guarantees. Let me guarantee you something about guarantees. If a team is guaranteeing a player that they're going to take him in the first round, they're not telling anybody else. If they really do want that player, they're not going to put out any smoke or anything about, let's just say it's Caleb Houstan. And let's say the Grizzlies have 2 first picks, which I believe they do, in the draft. And the Grizzlies say, hey, Caleb, go ahead and stay in there. If you're there, we're going to take you. The Grizzlies aren't telling anybody that. If they want Caleb Houstan, they're not telling anybody that they're guaranteeing him, except they might tell Caleb Houstan or a would-be agent, handler of Houston's. Now, having said all that, I don't think any of these teams are guaranteeing Houstan anything. I think they could say, hey, Caleb, you're there in the second round. We could scoop you up. No, I could easily see that. But I don't think any team, and you say there's nothing against Caleb. It's against him looking like a first-round pick. He did really nothing in his first year at Michigan to think that he would be a first-round pick. Now, having said that, I think it would be best for Michigan basketball, maybe for Caleb. Caleb might want to just see if he could be a second-round pick, play in the G League, make some money. He can't make any money because of name, image, and likeness because he's not a U.S. citizen. And so how those rules have changed, it just might be like, hey, when nobody was getting paid, or if it was getting under the table, it was kind of like, okay. But now that you can get paid, but you can't if you're not a U.S. citizen, I could easily see why somebody would say, I'm done. I want to go. And plus college, I'm thinking when you're, I'm just a guess here, when you're a top 10 player coming in, ranked player and a 5-star like Caleb Houstan, you think that you're going, you're a one and done and you're going into the draft. You have that mindset all the way through. And you think that you just had a couple hiccups and you had a couple bad games, a bad tournament, bad season, and everything's going to turn around and a team would be wise to take you and everything else. All those things could be true. Again, I think what would be best for Michigan is if they would be able to get Houstan back. They could use somebody who, could fill it up from downtown. Who can't? And, that might be the attractiveness, for an NBA team in the second round. But there were very little to see at Michigan and really creating your own shot when it comes to being a volume shooter from downtown. Caleb Houstan can't do that, but that doesn't mean he's not going to keep his name in there. And he might go. Michigan have another scholarship, and they could fill one out via the transfer portal. So it's something to keep an eye on. And Joanne, will have his, I don't know if he's going to have his work cut out for him at that point. He'll be able to pick and choose. He might want to bank that scholarship. He might want to go out there and find the best shooter he can in the transfer portal. But the 4 guys that are coming in, you see them right here: Jett Howard, Greg Glenn III, Terrace Reed, Doug McDaniel. You might want to know, hey, where are those guys ranked? And for that, I bring up the Rivals 150 for 2022. The number 1 player in the country, Derek Whitehead, is committed to Duke. Nick Smith is committed to Arkansas. He is the number 2 player on that Rivals. These guys will be freshmen next year. So you have to remember Caleb Houstan was 9 and Moussa Diabate was 25. So look at where the Michigan guys are ranked. You don't have to go too far down the list, and you find Terrace Reed at number 29. In the latest ranking, he bolted up. He's got a lightning bolt next to his name. He has moved up 8 spots to be a top 30 player for next year. Terrace Reed, the 6'8" frontline player out of Branson, Missouri, who verbaled to Michigan back, August the 5th. So a top 30 player in Terrace Reed. The movie star, Mr. Howard, Jett Howard, Jace's younger brother, who's coming in, is a shooting guard. He's ranked 41. I saw him as high as 38. I'm looking, so, he was, they adjust these rankings. But Jett Howard, almost a top 40 player. And the 2 others, you look, they're both top 100 players currently. Maybe they'll have another adjustment before the season starts. I don't know. They do make a few as they go along, which is good. And you get new information. If you did one every day and you get different information, you might have a different ranking every day. But Greg Glenn III out of Pompano Beach, Florida, 6'7" frontline player. He's ranked as a top 90 player at 89 on the Rivals top 100. And then looking for the point guard, Doug McDaniel. There he is, 93, Fairfax, Virginia, 5'10" point guard, lightning fast. And a lot considering that Frankie Collins, even though Michigan brought in a transfer in Jalen Llewellyn, Doug McDaniel, you would think is going to be leaned on a little bit at the point guard position. So there are all of those guys. Feedback coming in from Jason. And Jason, if you didn't hear the news, starting tomorrow, we'll have an opportunity, and we'll tell you along the way how you can get in, not only on the feedback, which is fine. I like reading the feedback that comes in, but also an option where you could call in and through an app, and we'll get that news to you out here in the coming days. Jason, talking about Caleb Houstan, says he needs some more time to mature as a player. Size, strength, court vision, in his opinion. Just don't see him in the NBA yet. Never know. Money talks. Well, that's right. You never know. And just because a guy isn't picked in the first round, I mean, that's the idea. Like if you knew somebody was going to get selected in the first round, you would say, great, good luck, congratulations, all the best to you, in your career. When guys still have eligibility left and they're not going to be picked in the first round, that's when you start saying, hey, it might be best for you to stay in school. You have a good year, you work yourself into the first round, guaranteed money. There's the flip side. Guys might just be like, I don't like school. I didn't like the college experience. I'm ready to go pro. I'll if I don't get picked in the second round, I'll get in there as an undrafted free agent. And there's all kinds of players, examples that if you are a college basketball player that you can look to and say, hey, I'll just be the next this guy. And the easiest one, Jordan Poole, nobody thought that Jordan Poole was going to get selected in the first round, myself included. And then he was, and then people didn't think it was a good pick, myself included. And then, he's gone off and he's this excellent player. Now all these Michigan fans are like, why is everybody dogging Jordan Poole? You guys did. Well, nobody thought that Jordan Poole was going to get taken in the first round except Golden State. Problem is that, Jordan Poole, there's many more that are not Jordan Poole. There's Jordan Poole. Most of the guys that think they are going to get drafted, they don't. But in addition to Jordan Poole, you could look to Isaiah Livers, who was taken in the second round. He's Caleb Houston's not the player Isaiah Livers. I agree with you, but he's a lot younger. Livers stayed around for his 4 years, so younger players always tantalize. Plus, a guy like Houston was a top 10, so there would be a chance that he could get taken in the second round. And then you look to, let's just say, the Eastern Conference Finals tonight. You have both players that are starting for the Miami Heat, who they weren't first-round draft picks. They weren't second-round draft picks. Strus. You've got Duncan Robinson, whoever the other guy is. His name is evading me right now. He also is an undrafted free agent. The Heat lead the NBA in undrafted free agents, and they've got their starting backcourt. Neither of them were selected in the first or second round. And of course, Duncan Robinson wasn't either. So a lot of these guys are like, hey, I'll just get in. I'll be the next Strus, Duncan Robinson. And Duncan Robinson, sharpshooter, if you're Caleb Houston, and the one thing you're a shooter and didn't have the greatest shooting year, what's a shooter going to believe? That his next shot's going down? And like, if he doesn't think that, if Caleb Houston doesn't think that, I'll go out there and light it up. I'll be in the NBA and I'll go 7-10 in my first game. He better think that way or he's never going to make it. So these guys, and there's a lot of examples to look at and say, hey, I'll be fine. And even if none of that works, even if there's no G League, there's no two-way contract, there's no second round, there's no undrafted free agency, there's always international play. And there's plenty of examples of guys who have went overseas and have come back and then played in the NBA. There's plenty of examples of guys who played 5, 10, even more years abroad, pocketing, 6-figure deals left and right, living, across the West. That's not all that bad either. So it's almost like, as much as and I do it myself, like, oh, terrible decision. There's a lot of decisions that, like, it's not that it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, sure, he could ultimately, end up, you could be somebody like Duncan Robinson getting a $90 million deal, or at the low end, if things didn't work all the way through there, play in Europe or something for 5 years and make $500,000. Yeah, maybe not life-changing money, but not all that bad either. I don't think we have to worry about him. And I think sometimes we do worry about him. Like, have to worry about Caleb Houston, not being able to get a job or something. He's going to be fine. Being 20 years old, making, 6 figures overseas or something. And sure, he might have to just make, 50, 60 grand in the G League or something. not all that bad. But, can be better. That's the point when you get to the very tippy top of the ladder there in basketball and all kinds of different options. And, we just look at them. Jason again saying he thinks there's a total of 5 Michigan players in the NBA playoffs. If I'm not mistaken, at least one Michigan player will win a ring this year. Jason, I believe you're right. So you got Miami, who we talked about already with Duncan Robinson. The Celtics signed Nick Stauskas. Nick Stauskas. I don't know why I called him Stauskas. Nick Stauskas. So, yeah, there's one on each of the teams tonight. And then tomorrow night, you got Golden State. We've already talked about. So, yeah, somebody's going to get a ring. Speaking of that, as an aside, before I get to the players and lookalikes, it just reminded me, talking about Jason and talking about a ring. I watched a portion, I taped it, it was a 30 for 30 on the tuck rule. Tom Brady played the Raiders in the playoffs. Charles Woodson on one side, Tom Brady. Charles Woodson hit some fumbles. They end up reviewing it. Tuck rule. Adam Vinatieri kicks 2 field goals in amazing fashion at like a half foot of snow. One of the most memorable plays in NFL history. But the cool part here is that you've got the 2 Michigan men, Brady and Woodson went out to Brady's house in Tampa, and they watched the game together. And it was interesting on a couple fronts. One, I was surprised that Charles, who had in years past said he just doesn't want to talk about the tuck rule. He's made his point. It's obviously very frustrating. He felt like the Raiders would have went to Pittsburgh the following week and then would have ended up winning a championship for the Raiders. It ended up working out fine for Charles Woodson. He got the Super Bowl in Green Bay and Hall of Famer and everything else, but still, I mean, it was he believes, and you could see as they go through everything, and they walk through it. Brady's hold the ball, Woodson's hold the ball. They're batting it around. It's cool. But one of the other parts that was cool to it was that Brady signs this, gigantic deal with Fox to be a broadcaster when he's done. And just in the last couple of days, Drew Brees, hung up his helmet 2 years ago. And then last year, he was there on Sunday Night Football, and Drew Brees wasn't any good. Drew Brees is a Hall of Fame quarterback, great quarterback, everything else, but it wasn't all that good as a broadcaster. And there's some danger there. Like Joe Montana, before Tom Brady, was considered the greatest player. Joe Montana wasn't all that great of a broadcaster. It's interesting. I was watching hockey this week. I saw the great one, Wayne Gretzky. He was sitting out there broadcasting, but Wayne Gretzky, greatest player ever, not all that great of a broadcaster. He was all right this weekend. I was watching him, like maybe he thinks he saw that money that Tom Brady's getting, and he's thinking maybe I'll just stay in the broadcasting game. But there's a lot of examples. Michael Jordan, he went into the ownership, but not all that great of a broadcaster. So with Tom Brady, is he going to be a sure thing? And you don't really know. I think about Brady going on the Manning cast this year, and it was very entertaining, but it's different when being a color analyst than just being a guest. But, Tom Brady was funny there. But during this 30 for 30 with Woodson, it was Brady and Woodson interacting for about 10 minutes, watching football, and Tom Brady talking about what he had a little bit of that Peyton Manning, what appeals to me as I watched Monday Night Football this year on the Manning cast, Manning saying things as the game is going on, what he's looking at, bringing you in there, telling you what's happening. And if Tom does that, I saw, and Fox and their people, in addition to him being the greatest of all time and having the name, I'm sure they watched that and said, this is going to work. Look at him on that 30-30 with Woodson explaining everything. That's all he needs to do, and he'll be good. One of the examples, I hadn't seen it. I'd listened to a lot of interviews with Tom Brady with Jim Gray, and none of those interviews, he's on maybe for years. He was on halftime of the Monday Night Football game with Jim Gray, but it wasn't very interesting. I like Tom Brady, but I was never thinking like, oh man, this is a must listen. This is awesome. I was like, no, I don't really like Jim Gray, and maybe that's it. But the 30 for 30 gave me an idea that it could be pretty good for Brady when he's done. All right, so let's get to these lookalikes. So you have Jett Howard, who is playing Carmelo Anthony in high school, and he's going to be in that LeBron James movie. We can see that. Here are some others that I came up with. Other Michigan doppelgangers, lookalikes, or guys that could be a double in a movie. I have a few here. Let's see what people think. Are you ready? Let's go to it. We have Joanne Howard, the head coach at Michigan. This is a very easy one. We saw it at the Oscars this year with Will Smith, and when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, of course, with what Joanne Howard did with Wisconsin, immediately they were like, hey, Will Smith could play Joanne Howard in a movie. And you take away the slaps, Will Smith could play Joanne Howard. I mean, he kind of looks, he's a good actor. He's played the Williams sisters' father. I didn't see that movie, but this is a very easy one. And they did both slap someone, so you do have that. But you put Will Smith in a maize and blue shirt, and in this case, jacket, get him that the other stuff that Joanne wears there. You get a little salt and pepper going as well, talking about Will Smith. That is easy casting, easy peasy. If they ever wanted to do that, there you go. Will Smith playing Joanne Howard. Others look alike. Phil Martelli. Now, you've got the Michigan assistant coach who went in and coached those 5 games at the end of the year. And Martelli did a nice job winning that Ohio State game that got Michigan into the tournament. A lot of actors you could see. Who's the guy that played in Whiplash? Not J.K. Dobbins. It's called J.K. Simmons, I think. J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Simmons. I thought about him, but then I went to Larry David, who had his own show. And if you put a side-by-side Phil Martelli and Larry David, it'll work really easy. Martelli's lost a little weight since. And David would just have to, comb his hair back a little bit. And I think it works. Larry David, Phil Martelli, doppelgangers in a movie. Let's move on. I've got a few more here. Hunter Dickinson. Now, Hunter Dickinson, you can probably find a lot of actors that look like Hunter Dickinson, but Hunter Dickinson's 7'1". So if you're going to have anybody play Hunter Dickinson, you're going to need somebody big. And I got to cut his face off here on purpose. If you go back, you may know who this is. This is a former UCLA Bruin who ended up with the Cavs and T-Wolves. And here he is, Kevin Love, in a side-by-side with Hunter Dickinson. It's a younger picture of Kevin Love, but Kevin Love does a great job keeping himself in shape. And heck, I bet if Kevin Love came into Michigan and put on his Michigan gear and went out there, he might be able to fool. I don't know. He could play Hunter Dickinson in a movie. And even and more important here, Hunter Dickinson could probably play, if there was a Kevin Love movie, he could play a young Kevin Love. If they ever wanted to go that route and make a movie, the doppelganger, Hunter Dickinson, Kevin Love. And he's almost 7'1". Kevin Love's close to being a 7-footer, so it works out size-wise. I've got a few more here. Lookalikes, Michigan coaches and players. A former Wolverine, Shawnee Brown. only played at Michigan 1 year, and I don't know if there's a player that just played for 1 year that I like more than Shawnee Brown. Fit in perfectly for U of M. It was the fabulous year with Michigan winning the Big Ten. Love Shawnee Brown. Shawnee Brown would easily be able to play 50 Cent. Come on. I just watched 50 Cents. It's not a biopic. I forgot what the movie's called, but it was a takeoff of 8 Mile with Eminem. Right after that, the 50 Cent starred in his old movie. Not all that bad. Not the greatest movie, but could Shawnee Brown play a young 50 Cent? Absolutely. I mean, come on. It would work. They look a little bit like each other, but the build for Shawnee Brown and 50 Cent is spot on. Couple more here. Doppelgangers, lookalikes, Michigan coaches and athletes. Here was one that I saw sifting through. You have Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. We went to the football side. And there he is on the right. His name is evading me. The guy that played Batman, one of the great actors of our generation, but did get caught with a hot mic saying some, I don't want to say unfortunate things. I don't even remember what it was about. Kind of came off as a jerk, but he's in the Fighter. He's an awesome actor, but he could do Jim Harbaugh for sure. Brooks from Shawshank Redemption. I think that was coming in from Jason. I think that's what he was talking to maybe about Martelli. And here he is, CJ helping me out. Christian Bale. Yeah. Thank you, CJ. I mean, sometimes you go through this and I'm like, I'll remember Christian Bale's name. I know who Christian Bale's name is. I don't need to write it up on the screen. And then here I get to it and I'm like, yeah, Jim Harbaugh. And who's that? Christian Bale. Christian Bale is a great actor. Almost across the board. The movies that he's played in, awesome. Could he play Jim Harbaugh? Yes, he could. That would be a good one. CJ, thanks for having my back there. I like it. Do I have another one? Oh, yeah, there it is. The last one. Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State. If you are old enough, back in the day when I was a youngster, there was a show called The Munsters. And you had Herman Munster, who was an awesome actor, and he was funny. Herman Munster was. And then he had his kids. And what was it? The daughter, I don't remember, but she wasn't a monster at all. She was just like a nice looking young lady. And like she was the cast off. But you had Grandpa, who was Dracula. He was pretty cool. The wife was like a Dracula type. Frankenstein was Herman Munster. And then the little kid, Munster. Was it Eddie Munster? Yeah, there he is. Eddie Munster and Ryan Day. Very very similar doppelgangers there. When you take a look at, you always wondered what happened to little Eddie Munster when he grew up. He ended up being the head coach at Ohio State. Spinning image. You look back sometimes, if you look at my picture when I'm 8 years old and I put it up there, you'd say, hey, it doesn't even look like you. But you can totally see it from Day when it comes down here and with Eddie Munster. Okay, that is going to do it. Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to be back. We're going to talk a lot of football. We'll be joined by Trevor McHugh from the Maize and Blue Review. We'll talk about the Wolverines, and we'll if anything happens on the hardwood, we'll talk about them there. But we've got some football things lined up. If you're somebody that's looking down the line here for something to get your dad for Father's Day, You might have a graduation present that you're looking to hook somebody up with. You might have a birthday, any of those things. And you're like, forget the tie. I've bought 1 million Maize and Blue shirts, golf balls. How about a subscription to the Maize and Blue Review? Your dad, the Michigan fan in your family will love it. Go to michigan.rivals.com. I used to tweet every day on everything going on in sports, and I occasionally tweet about one every 3 days. It depends. I do all my tweeting on the Den, the Maize and Blue Review now on the posting board. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm hanging out talking about sports. So you can see me there, MichiganRivals.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Maize and Blue Review on YouTube, wherever you're watching it. We are on Facebook. I got to do a better job there. Twitter, we're there. IG as well. I was going to start taking some pictures on IG. That's for another story. But TikTok. I'm giving some love for TikTok. And the 30 for 30 that I was watching that I remembered, I put a TikTok up of Tom Brady and Charles Woodson. They were showing some of their highlights when they were at Michigan. I thought this made good TikTok. And there it is. So you can see my TikTok work. TMBR, the Maize and Blue Review. We are there. All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the feedback. Jett Howard, the Hollywood star, will be with you again tomorrow at 1:00